Well, good morning and welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. Today we are working on the B17, which is anywhere from a 2013 to a 2019 Nissan Sentra. This one happens to be a 2014. So what we're doing today, this is actually like my 5th time making an intro, believe it or not. The project is actually done. The reason I'm redoing the intro is because the scope of work changed halfway through. The scope of work, I guess I'm at work right now, I don't know. The project changed halfway through and we had to get a little more involved, and I included that in the video because there's nothing online that I can find, not one little teeny weeny thing I can find online about how to do this project. So what we're doing is we're replacing the drive belt, the tensioner belt. What we're doing is we're replacing the Serpentine belt, also known as the drive belt. It's a rubber belt. There's 135,000 miles on this car, so technically we're past due. I believe if you're recommended to do it every 100,000 miles or so. But I did it today, so better late than never. So this is an easy project. It should be an easy project to replace the drive belt. Essentially all you do is you just get in under your quarter panel over there, release tension off the tensioner with a 14mm wrench, pull the belt off, put the new one on, and you're on your merry way, in theory. On this car, it was a little bit more difficult, only because the tensioner, that's what this is, got stripped out. Yeah, if you've ever changed a belt before, you know that's not good. So we replaced the tensioner as well. That's when things got different than what I wanted it to be, but not a big deal. It's a tensioner, whoop-de-doo, big deal. Yes, it is a big deal, or it was for me on this car. So the good news for you is you have me to show you that there is a way to do this. For me, there's nothing on YouTube. There is now because I posted. But there was nothing on YouTube, nothing online, nothing on the forums to show me how to get in there and actually replace this. And I know what you're thinking. If you haven't popped your hood, it's a tensioner. Unbolt it, pull it out, put a new one in. But there's no access. There's no way to get a wrench down in there. And even if you pop an engine mount and lift the engine or drop the engine, there's still no way to get a wrench in there. But it's not that bad. It's really, really not that bad. Okay, so that being said, we're going to go ahead and get this job started. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you find it helpful. Important to note, I also have links to both of these products down below. So check those out if you're planning on doing this job yourself. But this whole wheel well liner needs to come out, actually, it's split up here on top. So just this half of the wheel well liner needs to come out. You can either try and use your pop-out tool and hope it works. Just get in there and pop them out, just like so. It looks like we got another one behind the stupid vortex flap. So then we got these, look like 10 or 12 millimeters. Well, wouldn't you know it, it looks like it splits. Maybe that's so that we can cut it. It definitely looks like we designed it so that you could get it apart. Now, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and cut that off. You don't have to. You could go ahead and just take this whole thing out. I don't care that much. All I do with this car is just drive back and forth to work, so I mean. All right, so now that can get out of your way. Now we have access to, or better access to, the belt from down here. You got your tensioner, you got your, looks like that's your water pump, and then your alternator should be right above that, I would imagine. So now, as you see, this belt doesn't actually look bad per se, but there's 135,000 miles on it. I like to take care of things before they break. Just my little, my little thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace it, regardless of whether it's bad or not. It's old either way. Okay, so What you need right here is one of these long serpentine belt tools, and we're going to use the 14mm attachment open and wrench because, like I mentioned, it is narrow in there. Just pop it on like that. Lighting is so hard in these videos. Okay, so you're going to grab your long tool. You don't need one so long. This is just the shortest I have. You're going to go to your tensioner, which is right here, and you're just going to put this on your nut. And then you're going to go essentially clockwise to loosen tension on the belt. And that'll give you all kinds of slop. And then, depending on how far you gotta go, you can get it around your, what the frick? You can get it around, just pop it off. We went around, pop it off there. You can then let go of your tensioner. Get it off of here, slide it around. Boom, boom. Now the only thing it's hung up on is the alternator upstairs. And voila. So you now have your new one and your old one. You can compare them for size if you want to, just so you know you're not making an oopsie. Which they look pretty close. So then you can also count your grooves. Make sure you have the same amount of grooves in each one. All right, folks, this project has gone, well, this 20-minute project has gone drastically south. What happened is I couldn't get enough tension off the tensioner to get the belt back on. I just couldn't get that tensioner to go up far enough. And a 14mm wrench to get this, and let me get you a close-up so I can show you. There's no standard, no metric that seems to work. This is 14, but when you put it on there to release the tension, there's a lot of wiggle room. Which, okay, not a big deal, but what started happening, as you can tell, is I started slipping, and there's too much tension and not enough room to get this up, and this isn't exactly 14mm, and it just started stripping. Once it started stripping, there's no way I could get this any further. So, could not get the belt on, so is to take the tensioner off and replace the tensioner. Okay, not a big deal. There's 135,000 miles. We can go ahead and assume that we're going to need to replace it eventually, so let's just do it now. We're already in there. Problem with that is the tensioner, you probably can't see, but it sits right underneath here. Now this vehicle and the Juke are very similar, and the Juke, I watched a couple of videos. There's nothing online about this. Well, there is now because I'm posting this, so you're welcome, because I'm figuring this out on my own, and it's kind of been a pain in the butt. But the Juke has a little hole drilled in the side right here. It's a slightly different setup, but a little hole. And so now, as you'll see, I was frustrated. My Sentra has 3 holes. So to get this lined up, the way the tensioner comes apart is, where is it? So this bolt is all that holds the tensioner in, okay, just like that. And you cannot, that's a T50 Torx wrench. You cannot get a wrench in between here and the subframe of the car. So between where it needs to go and it's ain't the frame, but let's call it the body of the car, there's no way to get a socket down in there. I even have one that's pretty shallow and it will not go down there, let alone putting a ratchet on after that. So my solution was, let me bring the light up here. This is important if you're struggling with the same thing and your car's as dumb as mine, which if you're watching this video, I'm assuming it is. So my solution was, there's this little hole right underneath the mount, the engine mount. So I undid the engine mount. I just took out those 3 bolts. 1 there and 2 here. So 1 in the back, 2 in the front. I just undid those, easy peasy. Let the engine set. I took my socket that just hit the floor. Then what I did is I grabbed my floor jack, stuck it under the oil pan. Yes, I know some of you don't like that idea. And then I jacked the engine up enough to get the bracket for the engine mount to clear this lip right here. Once it cleared that lip, I got this 3-foot pry bar, stuck it back here. You can see some scratches, and I pulled the engine with leverage from the pry bar this way until that pulley, until this was in line with that 1-inch hole. Bear with me. Now what I did, or actually before I did that, but it doesn't matter, is I kind of just fingered the hole. Oh geez. I fingered the hole and I tried to guess and figure out where on this side that lined up. And there is why I have 3 holes, because I guessed, because I was pissed, I was angry, I was mad, I didn't measure, and I felt a little pinch weld, or whatever you want to call this. I felt one of these right here when I was fingering. So I went ahead and drilled a hole, and lo and behold, that's not where I needed to be. So I drilled another hole, and that was really close, but I could not get everything to line up, and I had to go a little bit higher. It's butchered. I know I'm going to clean it up before I put this back together, providing all this goes back together. And from then, I was able to get my extension, stick it in here, and while leaning over the hood, I was able to get that T50 stuck onto that, in which case I was able to slide this in through, and from there I was able to pull on the engine a little bit and stick this into the head here. Ended up jacking the engine up just a little bit more, and I was able to wiggle this whole assembly out from the top as it stood like this. And that's where we stand now. I've been waiting the last several hours for O'Reilly's to get this in. Thanks O'Reilly's, because nobody else in my area had it or was even able to get it before Monday. Today's Friday. O'Reilly's had it in about 5 hours. So that's the new one. It's not stripped. So I was curious if the reason the old one stripped was because it wasn't actually a 14 millimeter. So just like on the other one, you stick your 14 in there, and there's a lot of wiggle room in play. So I perceive this one having the same issue. Anyway, while I was out and about waiting for my stuff to come in, I went to Ace Hardware. They had their 20% off if you donate promo going. And so I got a couple different things to try. I got one of these crow's foot wrenches, and they have a 14. And so I'm wondering if I can use that, if that might make it hold steady and give it less wiggle room. I also got a slightly longer 14 millimeter wrench to give me more leverage, because I was having issues with leverage. And then we got Hit Harbor Freight, and I found even longer wrench sets, and so we got one of these. So this is a 14 millimeter, much longer, which means I should hopefully have better leverage if needed. So, all right, so I just want to show you kind of what we were doing before I do it, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get it on camera. So what I did, and this is what I did, is I got the jack under the oil pan, and I just jacked it up a little bit, right about there. Okay. I grabbed my pry bar, used the engine mount here, and just pushed it over. Ugh. Just like so. You got quite a bit of wiggle room this way, actually. And that was able to line the tensioner up with that hole I drilled, so I was able to get through to it. Okay? So that's how I did that. Alright, so this is that crow's foot thing. I think it will help. It kind of just loops over and reaches over, so I think that'll be helpful. But there's nothing I can do about that wiggle wobble. Now you might be able to put some tin foil in there, actually. Ooh, if we have any, I might try that just to see. But anywho, so I do see promise in that. Anyways, in the meantime, we are going to try and get this tensioner down here. Hopefully you probably can't see, but whatever. So this tensioner, you're just going to get down there, just feed down there. If you drop it, don't worry too much. I don't think it's going to go anywhere on you. Mainly because the other one, okay, I lied. So make sure you have the bolt on ahead of time, because I don't think you're going to get it off too well otherwise. Okay, so you're just going to feed this down, attempting to not drop it. So you kind of got to push that bolt into that 1-inch hole. So there's just not enough room, guys. So we're gonna have to jack the engine up a little bit more. So we're just gonna pick it up, just right about there. All right, so I thought better of things. I went ahead and I opened up this hole a little bit more. So now what I can do is I can do something like this and send this all the way through while I hold the tensioner from up top. I think it's gonna be, hoping it's gonna be easier. Okay, so we need to get the hole for the tensioner bolt to line up with the hole we drilled. To do that, as mentioned earlier, we're gonna grab our breaker bar, we're gonna shim the engine over, and then we're gonna have to hold the engine there. If you have 2 people, great. If not, like me, you're gonna have to find something to shove there to hold the engine. All I got handy is a roll of duct tape. Duct tape works for myriads of things. So I think we'll be all right. And then you're just gonna eyeball it. It needs to go a little bit higher, actually. So jack the engine up, whoop, and scooch that engine over. Check it out. Oh, right. Yeah, I think we'll be good if we can get it to stay right there. Who says you have to use duct tape unrolled? Actually, I wonder how that looks. Almost is very close. So if you can see my little, push the engine over, shove something in there to hold it. And it's actually very, very close to working. Might actually be in luck with a little square tubing. Let's try it. Or try and shove this over there. I think that'll work. Okay, so now we have our little redneck duct tape with a piece of square tubing inside it to keep it from squishing too much. We used our breaker bar, pushed the engine over, and now we can see the hole. I don't know if you can see the hole, but I can see the hole. I want to turn you guys sideways for a second. Boop, 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 boop. So now, through this hole, you can see the hole for the tensioner, for the bolt hole. So now we're gonna go with that and see if we can't make this thing frickin' work. So we're gonna take this, stick it through the hole, and it's gonna hang out there for just a second while we get this lined up. Maybe we can hold it with some needle nose pliers. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Okay. Woo! Oh, no, 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 no. We had it, we had it, we had it. Come on. There we go. Okay, we got it again. We're just tightening it with our hands for now. Yeah, buddy, I think we're on to something. Okay, so if you can see, please tell me you can see. Okay, so I want to use a screwdriver. This is your tensioner. We've got the hole with our bolt and our Torx bit, and we were just able to line it up with the bolt hole on the engine block. Now we're going in, buddy. So now from under here, what it looks like is this. And then you're just screwing it in. Okay, now before you get the tensioner tightened, oh, I should have showed you. There's a little pin on the back of it. This little guy right here sticks out. That's got to go into a very specific hole on the engine. And that's what allows it to maintain tension without spinning all over the place. So now we got to find that. Oh, we might actually find this easier to do from underneath. Oh yeah, this is actually easier. I'm gonna add a couple extensions to this so I don't have to reach around so far. It's right there. Boom. So pretty much that the pin, the holding pin, is dead 90 degrees down. So once you find that, you can go ahead and get your bolt the rest of the way in. Okay, and when I popped it off, it was pretty tight. I don't know what the service spec is. I'm just gonna go pretty tight again and get this out. Okay. This is such a small belt. Maybe that's actually part of the reason it's such a pain in the butt to get to. So I got my two 14mm wrenches. Oh, I got my head under here. Ay. We're gonna feed up to the alternator first, because out of the 15 tries we tried earlier, that was the easiest way. Not that any of those tries worked, so I might not know what I'm talking about. Wrap it around the crankshaft slash harmonic balancer slash whatever the heck it is. I don't even know. Have I mentioned I'm not a mechanic, guys? Okay, so, by the way, I'm not a mechanic. If that wasn't obvious. And then I think we're going to try and go around the AC compressor first. And then we'll grab it. And we'll pull it around. We're going to use our long wrench, which we just picked up at Harbor Freight. It's a lot longer than the other ones I was using. And we're going to grab it, pull the tension all the way up as far as we can. Let's do the AC first. We'll just take it off of the water pump. Dadgummit. That is tensioner at max capacity. It will not unloosen anymore. All right, so now what you're looking at is the engine. We have the belt on, thank God. I was kind of worried. This is your engine mount. We need to pick the engine up again and aim this a little bit better so we can bolt it back together. So you just pick up the engine enough to relieve tension off that mount. So now you can just grab it and just gently move it over. You got 3 bolts that go in there. All right, so there's 1 bolt. There's another one. We got 2 up front near the bumper. And the 3rd bolt. Those are what they look like, by the way. Now you can go ahead and drop the engine down because you got all these lined up. Now I do not know the torque specs because for some reason they refuse to print paper service manuals on this vehicle. So now we're going to go ahead and clean off the hood, start the car up. All right, so we have the belt on. It looks good. It's super tight. The tensioner is as loose? I don't know. As loose as it'll go, as tight as it'll go. The tensioner is maxed out. There is no more room for it to not tension. I have no idea how to explain what I'm trying to say. So this is extremely tight. The old belt was definitely stretched a little bit or worn in or whatever you want to call it, because the tensioner is definitely way more up than it was previously. So we're going to start this up. Here we go. That sounded all right. Well, everything looks good up top, everything looks good down here. There's a little ticking that I don't remember from before, but doesn't mean it wasn't there. I'm going to turn on the AC compressor now and make sure that everything can handle the full load.
13-hour shifts, sleepless nights.
And I'm going to open the garage door. All right, everything seems good, so we can button her up. You can see that everything's riding on the alternator good, everything's riding straight, there's no squealing. Awesome. Let's turn her off and button her up. All right, so before we go putting this plastic panel on, I'm gonna try to clean up my metal just a little bit so that my washer fluid, or this is actually my ABS wire, isn't running on it. And I kind of bang that back into place, and maybe we'll file it down a little bit. Oh, because we don't want our ABS system to sit down. if I ever sell this thing and somebody ever happens to look at this, they're gonna be like, what the frick? That, or because there's not a single other video I can find online about this. If they're getting in here, maybe they'll have already watched this video and they'll be like, hot dang, I got that guy's car. Okay, I'm gonna put this piece of plastic back in. All right, this is all back in. Let's put the tire on and get this freaking thing on the road for a test ride. And grab a tire. All right, guys, that was it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Granted, sometimes you get a little peel with that lemon, but you know, it's all swallowable. We got the job done. Everything's great. So, if you liked what you saw, make sure you leave me a thumbs up. If you have some suggestions for the future on how to do my videos, go ahead and throw those in the comments, as long as with any positive thoughts down there, questions. Remember, I'm not a mechanic, so when you ask me a mechanical question, I'm not going to give you a mechanical answer because I don't have one. I can help steer you in what I feel is the right direction, but I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an engineer, I'm not trained in any form, so keep that in mind. I'm just a guy that likes to figure crap out, and I can't afford to pay someone else. So that's where I'm at. So anyway, smash that subscribe button. Check out my channel for other videos we've done on this vehicle and others. Check out my channel for other videos I've done on vehicles like this and others. And until next time, we'll see you later.